Broadcasting live from the Business Radio X studios in Atlanta, Georgia, it's time for Atlanta Business Radio, spotlighting the city's best businesses and the people who lead them.
Lee Cantor here with Sanjay Torre for the Martin Luther King Day edition of Atlanta Business Radio.
Yes.
How are you doing, Sanjay?
I'm doing well. How are you?
How was your trip to Liberia?
It was amazing. I actually did not want to come back.
Really?
Yeah,
You miss your family?
exactly. I miss my family, the weather, the food, all of it.
But now you're back.
I'm back and ready to work.
All right. We're excited. This is going to be a good show. Today we have on Atlanta Business Radio Bill Coontz with the Dalton Agency. Welcome, Bill.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Before we get too far into things, can you share a little bit about the Dalton Agency? How are you serving folks?
Sure. The Dalton Agency is a full-service advertising communications agency. We have 3 offices, headquartered in Jacksonville, Florida, full-service offices in Atlanta and Nashville, Tennessee.
And then, so how have you seen the advertising marketing industry evolve probably since when you were a child, small child?
Well, I started in this business a long time ago, Lee. I've seen it evolve quite a bit. And it's what's funny is as we think about our business, it evolves almost on a daily basis, which seems almost unreal. But it's true, especially with digital communication and the way people seek information and find information for themselves.
Now, what about the expectations from the clients? Do they have the same kind of needs as they did back in the day, or have they also evolved?
You know, at its core, they do. They need to create awareness and make sales for the most part. So that hasn't changed. But how their message is delivered has changed quite a bit, really considerably.
Now, is that something that now, are they able to articulate that better nowadays? Like, are they more knowledgeable about marketing than they were?
I would say so. You know, especially younger clients who are coming into the business are very well educated. They grew up in the digital age. Mm-hmm. They know how they get information. So they're very wise and learned in terms of how they get information. So they know how their audience wants to get information.
Now, what about from a business process standpoint? Is it the same business process that you were doing back then? Because at first you have to kind of see what their needs are. You have to do some sort of discovery to understand where they're at. And then you have to have some kind of strategy meeting to help, determine how you're best going to, make their dreams come true. Is that process change dramatically?
Yeah, you just gave the answer. So, yeah, that process hasn't changed a lot. But what's different about it is the discovery process, as you mentioned, is much deeper in terms of looking into what the target audience wants, how they make purchase decisions, how they go about getting information to make purchase decisions. It's changed a lot because there are so many more options for getting information.
So now when you're saying options, do you mean kind of media channels to pursue that? At one point there were a handful, and now it seems...
Now there are hundreds.
Everybody is the media nowadays.
Yes, that's very true.
So walk me through what it's like, how a client comes to you. How do they typically, have they had an agency before and they're switching to you, or are you a lot of times their first time they've had an agency?
It depends. I'd say the majority of our clients have had agencies before, agency relationships, and for one reason or another, they're looking around to find out if there's perhaps a better way to do things. So what generally happens is we make a consideration set list. Our agency is on that list, and most of the time we'll receive an RFP, so a request for proposal, which is a little cold, I think, but it's just the way business is done today. So we respond to the RFP. Then the next step after that, if you make it to the next level of the conversation, then it's generally a face-to-face meeting, and we get to know the client better. We tend, as an agency, we respond to a lot of RFPs. We are in a lot of new business pitches, and we have our own process for doing that. And it usually leads to a second meeting, which is good because that's really when you can understand the chemistry of the client team. The client can understand the chemistry of the agency team. And really, that's when we start to get to know each other a lot better and have a much better understanding of their problems so that we can bring the right solutions.
Now, what are the typical types of clients that are the best fit for you guys?
We have a lot of expertise in retail, in healthcare, in automotive, financial services. Generally, our clients are a business to business and a business to consumer communication type of client. So working both sides of that, and we have a lot of experience that helps us to understand how to do that.
Now, you started out as a Florida firm, right?
Yes.
Is that where Dalton began?
Yes,
In Jacksonville. And then you made a move here. Was that because of the client opportunities, or a client moved here and then that opened up a door?
No, it wasn't so much that. It was a strong desire to expand our footprint in the Southeast. So we acquired an agency here over 6 years ago.
Right. And then now you've made a move into Nashville?
Yes.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, we acquired an agency in Nashville in January of last year called Anode. We made the acquisition that we're just announcing it now because it's really important for us to make sure that everything's working well
Like the
together.
integration
You know,
went
the
well.
integration
Right.
of the two teams, the culture of the two different agencies. So we take a due diligence time almost for the first part of that relationship, and we felt like at the end of the year we were ready to make the announcement. So that's why we're doing it now. So we bought a firm in Nashville called Anode, and Anode is a technology firm. We are the Dalton Agency. Before we bought Anode, was very contemporary, but also fairly traditional in terms of what we do: advertising, public relations, social media, video production, media strategy, planning, buying, that kind of thing, creative development, all the things that you would think of when you think of a full-service integrated advertising agency. With the purchase and the acquisition of Anode, we brought in interactive capabilities that we didn't have before. So augmented reality, virtual reality, motion graphics, interactive touchscreen communications that our clients need.
So now, is that how they got on your radar? They were doing interesting things in that space?
Exactly.
So now, for agencies that are out there that might be targets, is that a something they should be thinking about if they want to be acquired at some point, that they should start kind of experimenting and pushing the envelope?
I think anybody should do that, whether you want to be acquired or not. I think if you want to remain contemporary in our business, you need to constantly be pushing to try and be different.
So now, how do you determine, like when you kind of integrate something like AR or VR, things like that, that's so, out there right now? And do you go to all your existing clients and say, hey, now we have these capabilities? Like, how do you kind of mesh that into your existing clientele?
We will do that, but not all of our clients need that kind
might
of
not be appropriate.
interactive technology.
Right.
It's really what is strategically responsible for our clients and what their needs are.
But do you give them a heads up? Hey, now we have this. Like,
Yeah.
how do you kind of introduce that, even because it may not even be on their radar?
Yes, we do. We do. And we don't just say, hey, we have this new thing. What do you think about us now? It's more of a, presenting a strategic opportunity for them, saying, now that we have these new capabilities, how can we bring that to bear on your business and help you solve your business problems?
So now, are you involved in that integration in Nashville?
Mm-hmm. I am.
So now you get to play with the VR and AR toys.
I do.
So how do you see that kind of working as customers start thinking about using that technology?
Well, the Dalton folks, the Dalton team had to work through the process of having a good understanding of what VR is and what AR is,
And what it can and can't do. Right?
Exactly, because it's like so-called viral videos. A lot of clients
Make me
think
one of those.
Yeah,
Right.
Make me a viral video. Just bringing something new in solves all their problems, and that's not necessarily the truth. So we spent a lot of time, as I mentioned earlier, merging our cultures and learning about their capabilities, the capabilities of our new agency, and determining which clients those would be appropriate for.
So now we've had several VR and AR companies come through the doors here. A lot of people that we've interviewed are using it in trade show environments. Is that something that you're seeing also?
We are using it in trade show environments, and also using AR and when it's appropriate. I think VR in a trade show environment is kind of the shiny object of this year, and we'll see how it plays out. But we have a handful of clients that are using it in a trade show, using it at trade shows to be different. The other thing that we have with our Anode acquisition is Anode produces big sales meetings and shows for clients, like 2,000-3,000 person sales meetings, for example. And so we try and use the technology as much as we can in that world as well.
I
think that's really unusual for us to have that capability.
Now, are they doing like user group conferences and things like that where they're doing kind of industry events?
Mm-hmm. One client in particular is Bridgestone. And as you can imagine, they have a lot of retailers around the country.
So they bring them all together and do a, kind of celebrate their brand, celebrate their work, and then bring in education, networking, things like that.
Right, exactly. So we produce those shows as well.
Oh, so that's a whole new adventure, right?
Mm-hmm. It is.
So what do you see? How do you see that? Because that could be work for almost everybody, right?
Well, it could. It depends on the client. Some of our clients have very large sales forces that we could bring that capability to bear on that situation. But we can do smaller shows too. We produced a conference for a client in Nashville that was 200 people, but we brought the same capabilities to the table for that client, just on a smaller setting.
Now, do you think that you can use that as kind of a point of entry to build relationships with some of these larger entities?
Yes. Yeah, I do.
So then you create a marketing plan leveraging that capability as a way for business development?
Yes. Yeah, we will. And try and identify companies that have that need that either we know or maybe we don't know yet.
So now with all this activity, Dalton is kind of, I don't know if it's a rebrand or additional brand?
It's a repositioning, if you will.
Repositioning.
Our brand is the Dalton Agency, and we didn't change that. But we try and stay, as I said, I've used this term a couple of times, but we try to stay contemporary in our business, and we haven't changed. We're still the Dalton Agency, and we're very independent. We're not owned by a holding company. We have independent
which is different
ownership.
in this world.
It is. Right. It is. But we try and stay true to that independence by thinking forward on our behalf as well as our clients.
So is this a new tagline?
It is. It is. We have adapted the mantra of the power of different, and that's it's like ad agencies, communication firms are the shoemaker's children. We're the last ones to get shoes. So when it comes time to do this for ourselves, it takes a while,
right?
And it was a labor of love, let me tell you. But we put a team together and really thought through how we want to communicate about us as an agency and determined that the power of different really fit our new capabilities with our acquisition of Anode in Nashville.
Now, how are you defining different?
Different can be a lot of things. Different helps our clients stand out in their business category. Different turns unique ideas into even better ideas and more successful ideas. Different is a screen, if you will, that we use to look at things before we take them to the client to make sure that we're being different in our client's business category and among the different communications that their audience is looking at. We're just trying to be different to make a statement.
But not just to be different to be different.
No, not for the sake of being different.
There's always a strategic reason behind it.
Yeah, in my opinion, that would be a mistake just to be different for the sake of being different, because you and I both know that there are many tried and true marketing programs that have gone on for years and years and years and haven't changed that much. So that's also something.
But there's also a hunger for a lot of people just to get attention by almost any means necessary.
I like that you use the word hunger. That's very true.
And then so that's part of your role as a consultant with these clients, right? Is you got to kind of reel in like, hey, you're not trying to do art for art's sake. There has to be a kind of an economic reason behind a lot of the decisions.
I agree.
So how do you have those conversations?
Sometimes they're hard. We're in a creative industry, and because we're in a creative industry, it's also emotional. And I think the best creative coming out of agencies has some degree of emotion to it, and we have to push ourselves. And that's also part of this new mantra of the power of different. We put it on ourselves to push ourselves to be different and to bring new and fresh and unique thinking to our clients through the power of different.
And then, but it's also, different it's a blank sheet of paper, and it's in the eye of the beholder.
It can be, yes.
So you want to push the envelope and stand out, but you also want to be strategic and stay on point and be authentic.
Right. That's true.
It's a balance.
A careful balance.
Now, do you have any advice for companies that are thinking of engaging an agency or maybe switching agencies? What's some kind of tips to get the most out of the effort? Because it's a disruption to go and change agencies or start a new relationship. You're taking a risk. You're creating a disruption in your organization, their organization. But how do you go about doing this in a way that it not ensures success, but gives you the best shot at making this successful?
The first thing I would recommend to a company looking for a new agency is to really determine what your needs are. Many times we start talking to a potential client and they don't really know what they need, and we can help them figure it out. And that's one way of going about it. But I think just doing the internal due diligence of figuring out exactly what you need and how you would like to work with an agency is really important. And then look for shared experiences. I've been in this business a long time and have pitched a lot of business, but some clients want you to have experience exactly in their business category. Right. And I contend that that's not absolutely necessary. Shared experiences. Go with an agency that is solving problems for clients that are similar to your problems, for example. And then finally, chemistry. That, I talked about the RFP, which is necessary most of the time, but also going to the next step beyond that when you have a face-to-face meeting. That's when you can really determine whether the chemistry is right or not. In many cases, we're working with our clients on a daily basis, so it helps when we get along.
Exactly.
And have mutual respect, and that's something that we really look at as an agency. We don't want to put our team, our staff, in a position where there isn't mutual respect. The best work that we do comes from client relationships where there's mutual respect.
Now, talking about that kind of culture fit, because that's what it is in a lot of ways, right? You have to kind of philosophically and culturally be on a same page or a similar page, even though you are different and you are looking at the world differently, and that's why they're hiring you.
Right.
You guys got to have agree on some true norths, right?
Yeah, for sure. And that's part of what comes out of the discovery process that we do with all new clients. We have to be on the same page, and I like your use of true norths, because it's really important that we're on the same page when we begin. Because I think in any kind of a relationship, whether it's a business relationship or a personal relationship, if you get off track in terms of what you want out of that relationship, you sometimes aren't successful.
Right.
So we try really hard to be on the same page with our clients, and we try to lead our clients when they want to be led. That's very important to us, and being strategically sound and offering good ideas that have strong strategy behind them is very important to us.
Right. So like if a client wants you just to go down kind of a punch list of things, that may not be the right fit for your firm. If it's important for you to help them kind of grow and things like that.
It might not be.
Right. But it's good to get that figured out at the beginning, then
right.
6 months in, right?
Exactly.
So now for you, what's the most rewarding part of the job? Is it, all these new opportunities popping up, that must kind of reinvigorate you whenever that happens.
It does. And for me personally, the most invigorating part of the job is working with people who are younger than me. As I said, I've been doing this a long time, but I get the most reward out of that. And I still learn every day. I learn something new every day, and I try and apply that, and then help people who are younger than me learn from what I know and from what I've experienced.
Can you share a story maybe with a client that you were able to kind of take them to a new level, or maybe a level they didn't even imagine? You don't have to name the name of the client, but just...
Yeah, we had a client come to us a few years ago, and it was one large company merging with a division of another large company. And the client that we were dealing with, the senior most client person that we were dealing with, is extremely intelligent and extremely experienced in the category that we were working in. But he opened the door for us and said, "Tell me what we need to do to reach these 3 or 4 very important target audiences." And because he's so experienced, and because he has also worked on my side of the desk himself. Mm-hmm. It wasn't intimidating, but it was definitely challenging, because we didn't want to let him down based on his own experiences. And I mean, without giving too much away, we really came back with an exceptional program, an exceptional strategy, exceptional creative development, and an exceptional media plan that delivered the message on several different levels and in several different ways. And it worked really well for them, and they were very happy and continue to be a client of ours.
Now, is that what you find, that sometimes that you have this initial discovery and you go on a path, and then you're doing it, and as you're doing it, you, as you mentioned before, you're learning, right? And is it sometimes you're like, hey, this is working out, but this other area has kind of presented itself that we didn't even anticipate ahead of time. Does that ever happen where now you go on a different path and you...
It has happened, and to me, that's the beauty of a successful discovery process, is when you perhaps learn something that you didn't know about what the audience wants or how the audience wants to get information about your product or your client. And we have so many different ways of analyzing things that we're quick to adapt when that happens.
Now, is that an area that you're finding where agencies really can make an impact, is kind of helping with this data capture and analyzing the data in order to make more informed
definitely
choices that maybe historically they were going by their gut or they thought they knew the best thing?
Definitely. Analytics play a big role in what we do today, analyzing everything that we can possibly analyze and determining if we're on the right track or the wrong track, need to make a shift in one direction or another. And we're looking at the numbers every day for most of our clients.
And then how do you kind of give them back the analysis in a way that they can really make use of it? Because you can get overwhelmed with, just because you can measure something doesn't mean it's worth measuring. Right,
exactly.
But there's an infinite amount of things to measure nowadays.
Measurement for the sake of measurement.
Right.
It's not always appropriate. About 18 months ago, we developed an analytics group within our agency, and it's been a very successful addition for us. So we're looking at things and making shifts. In anything that's digital, anything that's social media related, you can make a shift pretty quickly. And we'll go to our client and say, here's what we're seeing. Here's the trends that we're seeing in regards to this particular message delivered through this particular channel. And we think that we need to make a shift one way or the other, or to this degree or that degree. And we can prove that it will work. And many times we'll do A/B testing type of mindset to determine what works before we recommend it, just because we have that kind of leeway with our clients to help us make the right decisions. So the analytics and the analysis that we do with the information that we get is really important to our programs, and that's something that's changed even in the last 5 years in our business.
Now, for the clients out there or potential clients out there, what's the pain they're having where they might think, you know what, maybe I should call the Dalton Agency?
The answer to that could take a lot of different forms. I think if a client is not accomplishing what they'd like to be accomplishing with whatever type of consultant they're working with, now would be a good time to connect with us. New product developments, new company launches, that type of thing. It's definitely good to have an outside resource and a consultant that you trust and can work with and has the right type of experience that you need. And just going through as I've mentioned, the different channels of delivering a message today. Clients know them all, but we know them intimately and have experience in all of them and can bring that to bear on developing sound strategies for our clients. So any one of those situations would be a good time to call us. And
then when they start working with you, can it start out with something like, say they have a sales event they want to talk about? Like, can it work in that kind of a small project manner?
Of course, yes.
So you're open to that too. It isn't like I have to just go all in with the Dalton Agency.
No, not at all. And because we're an integrated agency, our clients enter through a lot of different doors. But I work with my colleagues to determine what the best opportunities are for the agency. It's not always timely for the client to do that, but we communicate that with them so that they know what we have that we can offer them when the time is right. But a lot of our clients come in just through one door, whether it's sales meetings or public relations or social media or advertising.
And now if they want to play with your VR toys, they come in that door too.
That's right.
All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story today. If somebody wanted to have more substantive conversation with you guys, Bill, what's the best way to get a hold of you? What are the coordinates?
The best way to get a hold of me is via email. It's bcoontz@daltonagency.com.
Cool. And is it Dalton Agency or the Dalton Agency?
It's daltonagency.com.
Good stuff. Well, hang with us. We've got one more guest.
All right. Thank you.
Next up on Atlanta Business Radio, I have Christina Camacho with Ivy Lender. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
You got to lean in there. Rockstar close.
Okay, let me.
Bring it to you. There you go.
Can you hear me?
Can we hear her? I think we can.
Okay.
All right, Christina, tell us about Ivy Lender. How are you serving folks?
So Ivy Lender is a lending marketplace. We lend. We actually align applicants, typically smaller, mid-sized businesses, with lenders, both institutional and alternative, across North America.
So now, how'd you get in this line of work?
So I was in banking for 10 years before I started a payments company 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And all of my former colleagues started sending me these declined loans. Merchant cash advance loans were something that became quite popular around that time. And
In a bad way.
In a bad way. And so my first loan, I was, really didn't know what I was doing. I submitted a paper application to a friend of mine in the space and made quite a bit of money in 2 hours and said, wow, I really need to pay attention to this. And
was it really that easy?
It was very easy. It happened to be a very clean file or someone with good credit that just needed money fast and didn't have time to wait for my friend who was at JP Morgan to underwrite the deal. And from there, I started to really learn about the space and felt that I could work with my banker network to provide solutions to clients that either didn't have time to wait for traditional financing or didn't qualify. And
when you say time to wait, like how much time?
So typically bank loans can take anywhere from 30 to 60 days depending on the transaction.
So that's bank time.
Bank
30,
time.
60 days.
Yeah.
And what's Ivy lending time?
We can, it depends on the loan type. So if it's like a working capital loan, we could deploy capital as little as 24 hours.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So if it's a commercial transaction, like real estate related, it could take that 30 days, sometimes 10 days on the faster side.
So you thought that you can do things better, faster?
I wanted to do things better and faster. I developed our platform for our in-house team and quickly saw that marketing campaigns or failed marketing campaigns could really put brokers out of business. So we decided to open up our platform and create a SaaS model and make it reasonable for brokers to get into the space. But we did it with the intention of giving business owners true connections to lenders in the space that really are there to help. Because one thing I learned over the next 2 years of being in the space was there's a lot of people in the space that say they can do things or pretend to be lenders and promise the world.
There's a lot of promising going on.
Yeah. And so I came into it wanting to help small businesses. And when I was a banker, one thing I always admired was the journey of an entrepreneur. I felt that bug internally. And I think I always knew that I would go out on my own one day. I just wasn't sure what that would look like. And so we evolved from a payments platform into a lending platform.
So now are you working directly with the small business people, or are you still, is your client the broker?
It's both. So we do have a direct sales channel. And then we also opened up our platform to brokers. So we work with banks, credit unions, alternative lenders, family offices.
So when you say banks, are you talking about the mega banks, or are you talking about community banks?
Right now, community banks. I just spent 3 months in Canada. So we went through an accelerator in Montreal. It's one of the wealthiest family offices in Montreal. They were the largest stockholders at RBC, the Holden family office. They had their first cohort, and we were part of that, which was really cool. Yeah, I'm the first woman, so I'll always have that. And so we went through that. We met with all the 5 major banks in Canada, and we're looking to expand into the Canadian market right now because it's really untapped compared to the U.S. But the U.S. is definitely a bigger opportunity in terms of the number of applicants that are looking for capital.
So now walk me through the process. Can I go as a small business person? Can I go somewhere right now, or is it?
Yep.
So it's operational. It's out in the wild.
It's out in the wild. Yeah. We're a little bit over our third year right now. So yeah, you can go to ivylender.com.
And then what happens?
They apply for their loan. So we will ask them a series of questions. They can upload their bank statements either manually, or we have a product that's integrated with our application that will log into their online banking and pull analytics. So it's just simply pulling the data to help us decision and then match them with the right lender. Mm-hmm. So we have over 100 lenders in our network right now. So we will scrub the data or pre-underwrite the deal, and then we will align them with the cheapest cost of capital.
And then, so then that's what enables the small business person to get the money that quickly.
Yeah. So if you think about it, almost like if you're going to book travel and you go onto Kayak, right? Mm-hmm. Kayak will then present you with a series of options of either airlines or hotels. We're doing the same thing, but with business loans.
So now, is it that dramatic difference between the lenders? Like some will charge you, X interest rate and for the one loan, and then another one will do 2x?
Yeah,
is it that dramatic?
So we're I'm positioning our business as a mission-driven platform, and we're really trying to disrupt the space because we're launching at the end of this year. We're going to be launching something we're going to call Ivy Credit Booster. So it will be a credit monitoring and repair product that we'll offer free to any applicant. We're going to aggregate the data over time on all of our applicants. So the idea with that is, number one, to help businesses that would typically be declined if they landed onto a different platform, one of our peers. Our peers are not offering solutions. They're just saying, sorry, we can't help you. Figure it out.
It's binary, like it's you got the loan or you don't.
Right. That stops right there. And then typically clients will go and land onto different platforms and just feel rejection over and over. Meanwhile, they're trying to run their business.
Now, every time they're rejected, is that negatively impacting them for the next time?
100%. If they're doing a hard pull with every lender, they're going to be impacted and their score is just going to continue to decrease.
Like what's hard pull? That sounds like industry language there.
So they'll pull their credit. Companies can choose to either do a soft pull or a hard pull when they put someone through an underwriting process. Typically, lenders, if you're dealing direct with a lender, they'll do a hard inquiry, which will then drop their score, let's say 6 to 10 points.
Wow! Every time they're doing that, and if they're desperate, they're trying
everyone. And so a lot of people don't realize, that they're doing this to themselves. They're making their position worse and worse and worse.
At every time they ask.
Yeah. So, and you see a lot of subprime applicants coming onto the fintech platforms. So they already are kind of in a vulnerable position, if you will. And so for me, this is a really exciting enhancement that we're working towards. It's totally focused on financial inclusion and addressing the underserved SMEs. It speaks to me now more than ever. As a banker, I didn't understand what it was like to walk in my client's shoes, and now I get it.
Now you're an entrepreneur.
Now I get it. I get the struggle it's real.
The struggle is real. So now, how'd you find out about the accelerator in Canada? How'd that even get on your radar?
So they found me, interesting enough. I was in Europe traveling with 3 of my best friends this summer, and I got a couple of emails from their team asking me to apply. And within a few weeks after going through due diligence, next thing you know, I was on a plane and living in Montreal.
So now, what made you apply? What was the thing that was attractive to you to take?
So I'm taking on, billion-dollar platforms that have funding behind them. I've been self-funded for the, 3.5 years that I've been in it, which is hard, right?
Sure.
So, I wanted to scale the company. I didn't really know the venture capital world. So this program really was like a crash course or MBA that was accelerated into 3 months. And we met with hundreds of venture capitalists, both from the States and Canada. We put Ivy Lender on the radar. We've now created that hype. So we have opened our first round. So
now you're going all in with venture funds.
Yes, I am.
Wow.
I'm doing
So that's another business.
I'm selling my soul.
That's a different business, though, isn't it?
It is a full-time job. So I'm actually bringing on someone to handle our round right now. And we got into Fiserv's program. They have an accelerator that's in New York. So we're in their associate class, and we'll hopefully get to pitch Fiserv at the end of that in the spring. So we have a lot of really exciting things. Yale called me the other day. They have a Mint program. I don't know if you've heard of that. It's their MBA students pick a real company to pitch at Wharton. And
they picked you?
I'm one of the finalists. So there's each team member picked one. And so in April, hopefully we'll be selected and Team Yale will present us. My grandmother is going to be the most proud of this. I could make $1 million, but this will be the one thing she remembers.
So now, in your journey from, I guess you went from school to a corporate job, right? That was like a logical progression.
I actually got recruited by Fifth Third Bank when I was a senior in college.
But that made perfect sense, right? You're in school, somebody recruits you. You must have been doing good work there. Did you work for them or you didn't pick them?
Yeah, I started my career at Fifth Third.
So you did a traditional banking path.
It was somewhat traditional. So I had a great first mentor. Her name was Shelley Verbos, and she, took a chance on me at 22. I remember not knowing who Fifth Third Bank was or what Merchant Services was when I accepted the position. And then I got on the plane at Palm Beach International and saw the Fifth Third ATM, and I'm like, oh, this is a real bank. and then, my first deal was a massive steakhouse chain that had like 40 some odd restaurants that you would know if I said the name. And I landed this deal and my boss was just totally stunned because I had no idea what I was talking about still. And from there, I followed her 3 different times. I went to a community bank where we were building out the cash management division. And she wanted me to learn additional skills and the full cash flow cycle. And so at 26, I was this loud millennial, if you will, that told my CEO of my bank that I wasn't going to bring any of my big clients over unless we replaced our processor. And so at 26, he tasked me with restructuring that line of business. And I got on a plane and met with all the major processors. And then I restructured it. And it ultimately resulted in a significant increase in revenue for that line of business. So that I got early on, I got a lot of exposure to some really unique things. And at 30 was when chip cards were coming out. And I felt like it was a really disruptive time. And so I started off as an ISO or a credit card processor, and it's extremely hard to do in today's day and age with the margins being so thin and it being so saturated. So it's unique for us because we started off processing, and now we're bringing in the lending similar to the path that Square took.
Now, is the mentor still with you? Is she coming on the... No?
She's currently at a financial institution, but definitely on the radar if I can afford her. So she runs a line of business at a financial institution. But I would love in a perfect world.
Is she still mentoring you? You still talk?
I've had a few. I have another mentor now that came on when I started my company. She was one of the first women in payments. So when I started, I just realized very quickly that I was very green when I launched my company. So But
you didn't think you were, or you wouldn't have launched.
No, I had wings and was ready to jump. But I think I'm a little more humbled at this third year. I realized that I need to surround myself with people that are much smarter than me, right. And I respect that. It's interesting to see. The previous guest was mentioning having younger employees. I wouldn't say that I'm in my mid-30s, so it's not that I'm that old, much older than my interns or some of the people that I've had employed with me. But it's insane to see these younger generations come in, and it's exciting and also kind of telling that I'm no longer
the youngest.
I feel mixed emotions by it. When they start using this young language, I have to look up Urban Dictionary and see what this whole new language is.
Oh, things have changed.
Definitely.
So now for you, what do you need more of?
So we're looking for clients. We're looking for direct lenders. So we're constantly looking to be able to offer more products and services. So one thing that's unique to our platform is we wanted to address every business need at any stage. So back to that credit booster product, the idea is not to just give someone their first loan if they can't find an option. We're going to give them a specifically tailored application that will say, okay, this is what you clean up. In the next 6 months, we can get you back into underwriting. But then we want to graduate them to less expensive capital over time. So lenders that aren't being greedy, because what you see in the fintech space is you'll see retention teams or renewal departments that will start calling clients at the 50% pay down mark, and they'll compound their already high interest loan, right? So they trap them into this
where
cycle
it's like this
of debt.
treadmill of you can't get off of.
Yeah, so with my platform, with what we're trying to do is we're really trying to aggregate that data, work with the lenders and say, okay, we're starting you with the subprime lender today, but as you continue to follow these steps, get a better score and your sales increase, then we're going to get you a lower cost of capital. So working as a team to ultimately graduate them to traditional bank financing.
And that's where the mission, you're not out there to squeeze every dollar out of it. You're trying to really help the customer get the best outcome.
Yeah, we're trying to make it easy so that businesses can focus on doing what they do best, which is running their business.
Well, imagine if you knew a marketing agency that would specialize in that.
We'll have to talk after this.
Everyone's dream will come true.
Yes.
So you're out there, you're trying to get, I guess, more of the brokers, right? You need the brokers to keep it, socializing this and getting it out to their clients.
Yeah.
But you're also going out to the small business owner directly.
Yeah, we have business development officers. So we have inside and outside sales reps.
Mm-hmm.
And then, brokers, if they want to connect with us, if they're looking to streamline their process. So our platform, it's the marketing front end as well as the underwriting and decisioning. That's the fintech piece. So our CRM is built totally in-house. We have proprietary software. We use machine learning and artificial intelligence in our customer experience. But from a broker's perspective, one thing that's unique to our product is the CRM has a built-in dialer. So if they're going to run a phone room, everything is compliant. It's, they can record and monitor any of the calls that are made. The email marketing campaign is not a separate third party. Every tool we've built into one single platform, and there's nothing like that exists.
Wow.
So it's very disruptive.
So now, how are you getting the word out about that? Are you just using that machine, or you go to trade shows and conferences?
So we're doing a couple of enhancements over Q1. We're building a development team in Montreal out of that family office that I mentioned earlier. And we're going to open up the Canadian lenders. So we're right now working on API integrations with additional lenders. But we're going to put a team in place to focus on reaching out to other payment processors, reaching out to businesses that have a network of businesses. So whether it could be an accounting firm, it could be, it could be a various number of industries where they have access to a pool of SMEs that are looking for capital. And so we can offer them these services so they can come directly to the platform and get the help that they need.
Now, do you deal a lot with kind of online businesses that have where they can show, okay, this is how much business I did last month? Like you can see the numbers. Like
we pull in we aggregate a lot of data through the customer experience. So we're going to be adding into our system so we can see into the accounting software. Right now we see into the banking and we see into the credit. So we score off Experian in the States and Canada off Equifax. And we're constantly looking at additional points to create an alternative score. So that's another thing that I talk about a lot is alternative scoring with business owners, because when you start off, you're maxing out your cards, you're trying to cover payroll, there's a lot of things that happen that if you're just simply looking at a score of a business, you're not really looking into the story behind how they got there.
Right. It's not a true snapshot.
So we're actually going to work with another company that was in our cohort to that has a sales bot, but it also has the ability with just simply putting your name and your taking like either a picture of your driver's license or your passport. We can simplify our application from 47 fields down to just 3 or 4 fields, which is really would be huge for us. But on the back end, you would be surprised at all of the scoring or the things that are available. So one of the things that China, for instance, is looking at in other countries is social scoring. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. Mm-hmm. So we want to look at developing our own algorithm to look at the success of the loans that come through our platform and understand key behaviors, and then just look at the metrics of the data we're aggregating to then make our decisioning moving forward a little bit better.
Now, have you had a chance to have some success stories where you've been able to move a company through that and graduate them? And
we've had quite a few clients come through the platform. When we first started, one of the challenges was finding good lenders, because everyone promises the world. So by putting the tools in place that we've put and developing the platform, we've kind of worked out the kinks as to who's good in the space and who's bad. And the idea was to help the user have a more streamlined experience. Do you want a specific example?
No, well, I just want to know, so they're out there right now. So this is an operational thing. You've
Yes.
already helped companies kind of get
Yeah.
their act together
Mhm.
and have so they can get better loans at better rates.
Yeah, we've had over 500 applicants come through the platform in the last year. So we
And
launched this year.
and then now, if somebody wants to learn more and have more substantive conversation, if you're targeting these businesses, are they in certain industries? Are they in manufacturing? Are they retail? Are they doctors' offices, law firms, professional services? Do they have to have collaterally kind of businesses?
It depends on the loan. So we have unsecured products. So each product has its own credit guidelines. So if it's real estate, obviously, like we're looking at certain metrics. If they're looking to flip a home or to invest in commercial real estate, there's certain criteria that we're going to look for, or the lender's going to look for. We provide that information to the client during the experience. And, sometimes if it's more complex, it's not going to be a totally automated, solution. They would come onto our platform, apply, and then a loan officer would have to then kind of feel out what it is that their needs are and then work with them towards guiding them in that direction. But we're really trying to work to automate the process as much as possible. There's still a human element, though, today.
But what about like professional service firms like Bill's? He's got a bunch of smart people in the room.
Like,
How do you get a loan off of the selling things that are invisible?
Well, you're talking, is this Bill?
Yes. That's
Okay.
Bill.
Okay. So the marketing agencies are a little bit more difficult. If he has receivables like purchase orders, then we can look at that and kind of try to float him until the contracts are paid. That would probably be the best type of financing for him. If he's looking to purchase property, then the
So
building.
like real estate, if you have equipment, if you have stuff,
Yeah.
that's easier.
Yeah. So we offer every type of business loan that you can think of. So it's merchant cash advance, line of credit, term loan, SBA. We can close an SBA loan faster than a bank because we don't have the same structure a bank would have. So where it might take 45 to 60 days at a bank, we could clear it in probably 30 days. Same cost of capital. That's the cheapest cost of capital for a business owner, but not everyone qualifies. And then like we do investment properties. So if someone is buying a property and flipping it, but it's in a business name, I can do a loan for that in 72 hours.
Well, good stuff. So if somebody wanted to find you, have a conversation on the website?
The website is Ivy Lender, so it's IVYLENDER.com.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thank you for having me.
All right. This is Lee Cantor for Sanjay Toure. We will see you all next time on Atlanta Business Radio.